Ghostbusters Afterlife, great way to make a sequel decades later. Matrix Resurrections, not quite so. Hi, my name's Drew and welcome to another review video on Flying Wiener. I am talking about The Matrix Resurrections, which for me at least was a sequel I was very much looking forward to. As you may know, I absolutely love the Matrix franchise, particularly the first film. It has a very special place in my heart, probably one of my favourite films of all time, because it is the first film that really just blew my mind and made me think of reality and what it can be. I even made a very long video detailing all the stuff I love about it. I'll leave a link to that at the end of this video if you're interested. So I had seen the trailer, I was kind of intrigued by this whole thing. Obviously you wonder after you've seen the original trilogy how they would continue on this story, particularly with seemingly Keanu Reeves and Neo in this film. And Trinity of course as well. We see them both in the trailer, so it's like, okay, how does this work? And to me, this film is a very mixed bag. I will say that straight off the bat. Now, I do think that I may be too stupid to get it because it has a lot of meta commentary, and it is a film that also, at the same time, while giving you action and plot, etc., asks the question, why do we do these things? Why do we want sequels or reboots of these things? Is it even sensible to make these? Can you even fulfill the expectations? Like here, my expectations were not fulfilled, so I suppose in that way the film is commenting on me while I'm watching it. Very, very strange. So yeah, it's doing a lot of things, and what annoys me about it is that even I could see there are a lot of very interesting ideas here which I really wish they would just take and ran with instead of. To me, it felt like they were rehashing a lot of beats. It feels a lot like The Force Awakens in that sense, the 7th Star Wars film, where they sort of remake a previous film in the series. For Force Awakens, it's a very much beat by beat remake of A New Hope, so the original Star Wars film. And here it feels very, very much like it's just taking a lot from the original trilogy, particularly the very first film. The plot, without giving you too many spoilers, as per usual, what is interesting about this is we are suddenly in the real world, I'll call it, and Neo, or rather in this case he's not Neo, he is Thomas Anderson, that's the character we start with in the original Matrix film. He is actually a game developer. So in this film, in this universe, The Matrix is a game that Thomas Anderson made. And so everything we saw, the trilogy, was actually all in this game. And the plot is that he himself, he has dealt with a lot of issues where his own mind could not tell the difference anymore between this game world that he created and his own real life, and those are issues he's dealing with. And at the same time, his company wants to reboot or make a sequel of his original game. So that's what this is about. So that is where this meta commentary comes in. This is the 4th film in this series. It is a sequel to the original trilogy, and in the film we are dealing with a game that is supposed to get a sequel as well, and it's all The Matrix. So while this does sound very confusing if I say it in such a short way, it isn't actually confusing in the film. So it's not like, it's not like the film is all over the place or so. I feel that we do have a very good through line, and the story develops and we see the real life inspiration for Trinity in the games, but we also see that there's something else going on because we've got other characters who suddenly appear, and it feels very much like in the first film where Trinity and Morpheus, they go into the Matrix to find someone. We have something like that happening again. Characters just appearing seemingly in this, what they call simulation. So throughout the film we're constantly asking the question, or talking about the question, is this real? Is it a simulation? Is it actually just a game? Is it actually reality? And what Thomas Anderson's living through is the simulation. So it keeps going back and forward. So you could say it's like the classical Matrix story in that way. That is pretty much all I'll tell you about the plot. I don't want to spoil anything because the story itself does have a few twists in them that I want you to enjoy for yourself, of course, because overall, if you've seen the original trilogy, if you like the original trilogy, I do recommend that you see this because While it is a mixed bag, I feel that you do enjoy it a lot more if you are a fan of the series. I'll talk about things that I really like about this new film first. I think that's a good idea. One of them being this woman I mentioned in the film. Her name is Bugs. She is played by Jessica Henwick. She, of the new characters we are introduced to, was my favourite. I really liked her, so I actually felt that I would rather have had a film set in this Matrix universe just focused on her. I felt she was a very likeable character. She gets a lot to do. She's a very focal, central point of this film as well. So I really enjoyed her and what she was doing. Again, I just wish it would have been more of an original story instead of this story that we've already seen. Now, what I also like is something that you always had to ask yourself back then: what would this film look like with further advanced CGI? And now we get to see that here, and it's obviously great to look at all the effects. You can probably tell it the best when you have these scenes where they're touching a mirror and you suddenly see that it's like a surface of water, and it just bubbles and waves. That was very enjoyable. That's an immediate difference you can tell, but all sorts of things you can just see that obviously the CGI has improved quite a lot over 20 years. That is definitely what I like, and I like the setting of the real world. I do actually like this aspect of it, just as sort of pretending it's all a game. I just wish they could have gone further with that, because something happens midpoint and we're sort of taken out of that more or less. But I really think that it would have been an interesting way to make a film. So instead of all the action stuff, because obviously action in various forms has to return because The Matrix is also an action franchise, I was actually less interested in that, while the fights in The Matrix were always something I loved, particularly in the original and Reloaded. I really like those two films and what they did in there. The fights here, at first I thought you can tell that fight choreography has improved over 20 years, but then gradually the more fight scenes appeared on screen, there were a lot more edits and cuts going on, and ultimately the fight scenes just weren't as good. I wouldn't put that down to the actors having aged. I don't think that is the reason for this. It's just that the choreography and the camera editing, etc., just didn't hold up to what we are used to in this franchise. I wish they would have just dropped all sorts of action stuff and sort of went with this more philosophical examination of why do we do sequels, or why do we demand them of studios, regardless of whether it's games or films, comic books, whatever. So I really like that aspect. I think they could have gone more with that. It would have been a completely different film, but I think ultimately it might have worked better, because it would have just given us something really fresh. Either that, or like I say, they should have taken it in if they had stayed in this typical Matrix setting, they could have just gone with new characters like Bugs and just taken it in a very different direction there. But keep clinging to Thomas Anderson, Neo and Trinity, I don't know, to me it doesn't make a lot of sense. While of course we love these characters, I feel their story is just done. What I like less is the much of the rehashing that we do get. It's not just characters, we have characters reappear who are now suddenly portrayed by different actors. Now, while it is explained in the film how that can be, etc., I don't like it, I'll be honest. Regardless of whether you get new actors or use the old ones, characters reappear that I just don't really need in this film. I won't spoil it because I don't do that, but there was one character in particular whose reintroduction in this film, it really put me off. Every time he was on screen, I sat there thinking, why was he necessary? Why did they need to bring him back? It kind of annoyed me, so I really didn't like that. Also because he was portrayed by someone else. So I don't know, it is just really strange. There's some decisions I don't get. Then you've got things being reused, like actual camera shots. We've got one from the very first Matrix film where you've got the helicopter hovering right in front of the office building, and then the machine gun just tears into it. Then we've got the shot from underneath where you see all the bullet casings raining down on the camera. It's a great shot, but we already had it in the first Matrix. Why reuse it now? You know, it's just, and these things happen more often. I'm like, you know, paying homage is one thing, but there's just so much reused in this. It's like you're sitting on the fence wondering whether were they just lazy, or are they trying to prove a point, saying, look, this is what typically happens and this is why you shouldn't demand the films. Again, I'll say I think I'm too stupid to get it. I'll be honest, I might watch a few films that explain this to me so I'm more in the know, but these are just my impressions from not doing any research yet, okay? So be gentle with me if I really am indeed just too stupid. One thing that is rather a pet peeve of mine, the ending credits. Matrix films, you typically have really great music. I even saw a comment before saying, oh, you're going to love the end credits, the music they have for this one. And even that is rehashed. So again, I'm not sure, is it a commentary or did they think this is a really great idea? We basically get a cover version of Rage Against the Machine's Wake Up, which was used in the first Matrix films. I love that song, I love the album it came from. It was pretty much my first heavy metal album a good over 2 decades ago, and I really like that song. And it's not that it's sung by a woman, but because that's basically it. You've got the instruments are playing pretty much the same, so it's not trying to do some kind of adaptation, and it's just a woman singing instead of Zach De La Rocha. Did nothing for me. And this is a weird trend I've been observing. It's not that it's a woman singing, but I've noticed a lot in films. You had it in the Batman trailer, I mean the new Batman, you had it in Black Widow in the sort of intro stuff, and you see it popping up all over the place. More and more they're using cover versions of popular songs. Often they're just not as good, and I'm thinking, you know, is it a money issue? The licensing, etc., they don't want to pay the money. I'm just not a big fan of it. Give us the original songs. We love them for a reason. Cover songs really surpass the original, you know, so what is the point? But again, maybe it's commentary and I don't get it. Yes, so very mixed bag. Like I say, I think they could have left out more of the stuff that we expected, the action, the rehashing, these kind of things. Didn't need them. What I did like was the characters, the acting. Particularly, I feel Keanu Reeves, you can see how much he has developed as an actor over the past 20 years. The first half of the film really gives him a lot to do, and I really like that. I really enjoyed seeing him show his acting, because that's something that's often derided in the original Matrix trilogy. So I think they should have just gone with what they did at the start with this, like I say, this gaming stuff, etc. Gone with that. I thought that was very interesting, this meta commentary. That would have been something really new for the franchise. But again, I still recommend that you see it, particularly if you've seen the first 3 films, because there's a lot in here to like, of course, and great moments are also in this film. That will be all from me. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe. It is the best way to support this channel, and I will see you in the next review video on Flying Wiener. Take care.